my practice to work with metaphors. So I'm curious because the party metaphor was introduced very, very soft. It was like something that he just dropped and the client took it. So I'm curious to know if he was intentional with that metaphor or if it just came out in the conversation and the client took it. Because you said that you want to meet your other self or your true self, but you didn't come to the party, and that was all. You didn't say something more about the party or something else.
Okay. So Evan, I did not pick it fully. Are you able to catch the questions?
Yep,
Okay, great. Go ahead,
Yeah.
Evan.
Great. It's a great question. I didn't go into a full-blown explanation of a very descriptive metaphor. What I thought was the client is already quite reflective right now and quite aware. And something as simple as, because she kept saying meet, I want to meet that person. I thought, oh, meet, party goes with meet. And just subtly saying, you know, you want to meet this person, or I can't remember exactly what I said, but you want to meet, you want this to come to the party, or this is not coming to the party. So her language resonates with just a subtle symbol, and as something as simple as come to the party. And this allowed just a bit of imagery into what she was trying to say or try to express. And that's what came to me in the moment, rather than giving a full-blown metaphor. It's something just subtle, which is related to what she said, as something simple as, I want to meet this person.
Wow, great. Thank you. Thank you, Evan. Thank you, Simona. Is that helping you to understand? Yes. Allow me to give a little bit more dimension to what Evan was sharing. There's a lot of, there's a lot. When we're creating a metaphor is just a form that we've been taught to use. The whole, the questions that we need to ask ourselves is, how do you intend to use the metaphor? And that's it. That's why I want to talk about the different dimensions. There are one dimension in which most of the students at the second level has started to learn is whereby you put the clients directly in the metaphor. So they are in the story itself and doing all the things as I doing all this, you doing all that. There's another way of using the metaphor in which we put the clients outside the metaphor, seeing themselves doing something in the metaphor. Okay, so that is where this is what happens in today's conversation. The client standing outside and looking at the party and seeing herself in that, seeing another part of herself, which is basically her, okay, in the metaphor, and seeing what she's doing in that metaphor from a person who is observing the metaphor. Okay, so that's where, you know, a skill that you learn can be, you know, accelerated in terms of, you know, the mastery of using that particular skills. Cool, great. So this is a wonderful display of how the mastery usage of a metaphor allowed the client to observe herself in a metaphor. Oh, wow. Let's give both of them a round of applause. Whoa! Great, great, great. And anyone else would like to continue to, oh, there's another, no, that is a round of applause, okay, from Anissa. Good. Oh, Karen.
Hi.
Go ahead, Karen. Let me see, you're back in Thailand.
Yep.
Oh,
yes,
good.
Indeed. Yeah. Yeah. There were lots of great questions and observations, and this feels like a minor point, but the question about positive impact came quite late.
Yeah.
And often anticipated a bit earlier in the process, so we kind of learn it that way. So it certainly showed the fluidity of the process and kind of pulling what felt, you know, what felt appropriate at the right time. I just wondered what the reason to ask it at that point was from the coach's perspective.
So I'm going to pass it directly to Evan. Evan?
Sure. So there's two ways I'll answer this. The first way is the handle questions aren't just used to expand the mind in the awareness conversation. It's something that we can use all throughout a conversation because it does serve a purpose of expanding the mind. And the reason why I brought it in late was because the client just had this great realization, and I wanted the client to be able to fully see the scope of what's possible with this new realization, with this new click or this new insight that she had. So now that she had this click, I'm wondering what positive difference will it bring to you with this new learning about yourself, with this new seeing yourself, this honoring your needs. And this will show more possibilities for the client, getting the client in that gain frame. And this will help just solidify and cement that new frame of reference, because it's backed up by what the possibilities are. So the client has an insight, and now as she grounds herself in this insight, she has a new way of thinking. And the more that she can see what's possible in this new way of thinking and be grounded in that, that's what's going to help her facilitate a longer term change. So that's why I brought that question up.
Beautiful. Let's give round of applause. Woo! How many of you are crazy over the ICF markers? By the way, the core student is thinking, what markers? Well, as you move on to the second level, there is a set of markers that regulates the process. And what Evan was mentioning is, the marker is still the same, but it's amplified at the MCC level. So you need to understand, application of the awareness happens at 2 moments in a different specific time. The first one that most of you are familiar with is, as I'm talking in this conversation, there is emerging awareness. So that's the first time an awareness happened, and the coach invite the clients to solidify that awareness so that the clients can use that understanding to work on the situation at hand, or the outcome, the coaching agreement, whatever that is in this conversation. So that's what most students are familiar with at the second level, when we invite the clients to apply the learning that is gained from the sessions. And that refers purely to what arises in the moment of the conversation, in the context of the coaching agreement or the situation. However, as the clients finish talking about how I can apply this understanding to the situation that I'm in or towards a coaching agreement, the client is standing in a new time zone right now called the now moment. In this now moment, the client has an understanding about how that awareness that is arise from that conversation can serve the outcome or the situations. And right now, in this very moment, Evan asked the next questions. How is this going to add any positive difference? Here, the marker is the coach supports the clients to formulate the learning, not apply the awareness or apply the learning gain from what is emerging. So the word here, formulate her learning, means now that you're standing in this very moment, realizing how the awareness you gain can make a difference for your situation, which is either in the past or it is present right now. So as you are looking at that, as now my job is to support you to solidify your understanding right now in terms of how all this episode is going to serve you moving beyond the situation, which has not happened yet. So far, so good. So these are the 2 very unique moments in time where the markers are very distinct in terms of applying what emerged in the conversation and formulating what the clients can use in terms of the understanding gained from these applications. Cool? Wow, this shows that learning never ends. Okay, there's so much more, to deep dive into, to sharpen up your knife. Okay, great. Kimberly, go ahead, Kimberly. I see that your hands has raised.
First of all, I wanted to say, which I didn't when I did my first comment, really amazing, Evan, really good learning today. Thank you so much. I especially liked when after she said speed, you made her slow down. So when she was talking about the speed and you said, okay, take a moment, what do you really want for yourself? And that was when things clicked for her. So that was like really awesome. But I wanted to ask you personally, was there a moment in the conversation when you thought, where is this going? Or if not, what was your biggest learning out of the conversation today?
Evan, before you, I'm going to give you some time to process that. I
Yeah.
was holding the breath for you, right? When the client was keep on coming back, talking about, yeah, I need to fix it. I was like, oh, please, something, please. Great. So Evan, back to you. What would be your moment?
Yeah, it was early on in the conversation in that first 10 minutes where the client kept going back to that doing, what can I do? Just that default mindset. And that's when I'm just listening. I'm listening to everything she's saying. Is there anything else I can pick up on? And in that moment, I can feel myself thinking, all right, I'm thinking too hard here. I'm just going to let go a little bit and then get a bit more present with the now. And then what clicked for me was trust the process and work moment by moment, word by word that she says. And then that slowed my thinking down. So the moment that I slowed my thinking down, and then I allowed more space to be open to receive from the client. I know it's not giving you exact XYZ kind of formula, but it's more of I stopped my thinking and just allowed to receive what the client was experiencing in the moment. And that allowed me to see, oh, the client has this inner dialogue that's happening. I'm wondering if that's where the tension is. So I'm going to bring that back to the client. My observations just started to sharpen up a little bit more as a result of quietening my own mind. So usually when we do get stuck, it's that there's a big voice in our head that's telling you, you should be asking this, you should be asking that. Why don't you bullet this? But then when you quiet that, you're just open to receive. And, oh, I heard this and I noticed this.
Thank you, Evan, for reminding us again. It's not so fun, isn't it? It's not so fun, isn't it? Well, because I'm not in control now. Right. But think about all your wonderful conversations and those that's really sparks that beautiful moment that leave you, in awe. Those are those moments where, you simply trust. When you let it go, when you don't try to control it, like for example, try to make your date romantic. The more you try to make it looks romantic, the more it's not going to look romantic. But yet, I'm not saying that we don't do anything about that, but the point is that we overwork and try to make something happen, right? And that's where I think we cross that line. You remember crossing that line? Right? So that's where we cross that line. And so here again, we witness how a master coach self-regulate. And when he says self-regulate, it doesn't mean it's fun for him. Okay. He was like waiting in anticipation, and we can trust the process and we can trust the training. Okay, so each level of the training, we target, certain milestone or certain ceiling for you to hit. Let's say at the core level, as long as you can hit, the ceiling of, okay, I'm not trying to drive the conversations towards an outcome. I would do my best to give bulleting and invite for discovery and do my best to uncover. If the uncovering part is not so well done, fine. We can save that to the second level to fine tune that. But at the core level, you need to be able to slow down your thinking process of not driving too fast to the outcome. Again, all the things that you're doing in core level is to curb bad habit. Think about that. If we don't curb you from driving the conversation or focusing too much on the outcome, what will become of these conversations? The moment you start to bullet it and focus on what's the subject matter, you actually forget about the outcome. You try to make more observation, and that's how the process, the system will start to rebuild itself. When your system is not rebuilding in this manner to make observation, it's very, very difficult for you to build something on this driving something to an outcome conversation. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Great. Once you're able to master that, that's where we put you to another drill, raise the ceiling and say, good, you're able to make observation. Try to observe this whole range of things. That will become easy right now for you because at least you know how to make bullet. And so we can create this environment for you to fill in the bucket right now. Great. when you finish your second level, that's not the end. Because whatever level you hit is going to be formulated if you don't constantly raise the ceiling. So once you're able to make the frame, put nice things inside, we'll try to tease you around and say, can we arrange the frame differently? Can you add a little bit more color here and a little bit more color over there? Can do. So that's where you get into the freedom, the freedom of learning to color the content based on your own observation or your own perspective. But we cannot give you permission to run wild, to offer anything under the sky from your intuition at level 2, because we still need you to put the content properly first in the frame. So when you know that this is the appropriate content, then we can ask you to consider what can you do with that to make it a little bit more personal to your preference. Can do. So that's the principle of mastery training or mastery learning, that you cannot proceed to the next level if you have not achieved the previous level. Can do. Great, but it doesn't mean that you should not go to the next level when you don't accomplish it, because you need to raise the ceiling in order to challenge yourself. Got it? Great, well done. Maybe one more last question. Any questions for Evan in regards to the ACC conversation, the advanced second level? I think most of us here are the second level students, so we can open up the space to talk about the second level training. Yeah, anything in regards to the second level training questions that you find particularly interesting that you want to ask the coach? Oh no, gosh, I look at your face, it's all blank face. So Anissa, thank you. Go, okay, Anissa.
I don't know if this is like a silly question, but like, because a lot of times when I'm like practicing myself, the biggest weakness I have is to create or to establish a very strong coaching agreement. And I think for this conversation for me, because like we're very I don't want to say it in a very rigid way, but in my mind I was thinking in order to hit the markers, right? Like I'm thinking about, okay, do we need to ask about what does success look like, right? Do we need to like there's these things at the back of my mind where I'm like, these things are somehow not as explicitly present within this conversation, but at the same time it's not there. I don't know how to pinpoint it, and at the same time it was still a very impactful and a very effective conversation. So I'm just very curious as to where was the agreement actually established? And like, are the markers like hit or like, yeah.
But Anissa, thank you for being so candid and being so open. Trust me, this is not the only, you are not the only one in the room here who are curious about that question. Right? The rest of you guys are just too shy to ask that question. So Anissa got like burst a balloon and no, just call it out and say, come on, you guys, tell us where's the markers here. I can't find anyone. Okay. But yet it's still there. Great. Now think about this as an analogy first. Okay. How many of you do not drive or cannot drive or do not know how to drive? Oh, poor thing, Anissa. Okay, that's a bad analogy. Great. Good. There's a lot of ladies here. How many of you do not know how to put makeup? Makeup. Anissa, do you put makeup? Great. Ladies out there who know how to drive, right? Great. The same concept. When you're driving right now, do you remember to do all the things that was taught you when you're first learning driving? Look at the side mirror, look at the right mirror, adjust the screen here. All this. Do you do that now? But but we are told to, you know, when in my exam, you know, I have to do all this, you know. Yeah. So you need to understand, in the scheme of a coach professional development, you are in a phase of training where we are building a system first. Right. So this is a very unique phase of your development as a professional coach, to be trained first so that there is a system of operating. Right. The purpose of instilling those markers, as we mentioned, was to use that as like a guardrail, like when we do bowling. So we have the guardrail to protect, you know, the ball from rolling off, you know, the trail. Right. So the markers serve as an objectivity to allow us to use to shape a way of thinking here for you. It is not a mean to an end by itself. The quest that we want is to create a system. So every marker is designed to help us to appreciate a certain aspect of the process. Just like when you're driving now or you're putting on the makeup, do you actually follow through the drills? Well, of course, you have to put the foundation before you decided to add anything else, right? But there is a system that over time that you seem to pick up relatively at your free will, and you somehow can adjust it naturally to suit whatever that you want to create in that moment. But it's not the same every day. That's called mastery. To get there, it means that at the beginning stage, that's where you have to be diligent and faithful to be able to allow the drills, the markers to be a part of your system first, which is very difficult for most students, right? And henceforth, that's why your learning frame is trying to learn, but yet it is resisting. But it's okay, you're not resisting, you're trying to actually learn. So what you need to appreciate is, wow, this thing that I'm learning is a part of the greater mastery. It allows me to do something more effortless, and it allows me to manage a certain dimension of the process. Like, for example, the measure of success is not oftenly used. And for me personally, in my own practice, I don't find it also useful. It's only useful when the coaching agreement or what the clients want is relatively ambiguous, or the context is relatively ambiguous. Like, I want to be an effective leader. Great. How will you know by the end of the day that you are indeed able to find insights that allowed you to be an effective leader? That's where clients cannot answer the questions. But that would be very useful for me to force the client to state an outcome that is meaningful, so that I know this conversation is not just talking out in the space. Right. So when we understand that this is what the system is designed for, then we can customize that according to what is on the table. Right. So henceforth, you will observe some of the mastery coaching conversations. You know, that wasn't any specific contracting part, as in asking the clients directly, what do you want to talk about? What's the outcome? Think about that. If you're going to have a coaching conversation with the same clients over 9 sessions or 10 sessions, before you ask the next question in the third coaching conversation, the client will say, I know what you're going to ask me now. You're going to ask me, what is it that I want out of today's conversation, right? Okay, good. This is what I want. And I know what's the next question. How do I know I get there, right? Okay, I'm going to tell you that. And I know what's going to ask next. What is it that I need to shift or address in order to get that, right? I got it. And this is my answer. Do you understand what I'm trying to say here? Great. So, but then what's the point of us learning? Well, that's the point. You learn it so that you are able to adapt and, you know, work around the process, and you understand what you're looking for from the organic content itself, right? So maybe we can ask Evan today, what was the focus at the back of his mind as he's hearing the client story, and how he was so confident that that was what the conversation is all about. That, Evan, would you like to make a few comments around this piece yourself?
Sure. Yeah. So beforehand, we spoke, the client and I, talking about the topic and what she wanted out of the conversation. So I had a good idea of what is it that she wanted to get out of the conversation. And then when we brought it back in, she reaffirmed to me that it's about understanding that that the needs and the emotions, and it's around that piece. Then I knew that, okay, so And then you would have noticed later on in the conversation, I checked back in. It's how we're progressing towards you connecting to your your needs and wants. Oh, sorry, emotions.
Yeah.
So that's what allowed me confidently to do that. And yeah, simple as that.
How many of you here are going to be external coach, or you are planning towards becoming an external coach? Show a hand. I'm going to share with you a secret. 1, 2. Okay. It external coach. That means you are not going to be an internal coach of our organizations. Or you're not going to practice coaching for your organization, because the context does matters here. So if you're planning to be an executive coach serving an external clients or do coaching as a practice, now you have to seriously ask yourself this question: which is tougher? Coming to a coaching conversation when you know exactly what to deal with, or coming to a conversation and it's an open-ended conversation and you try to find your way around what is it that your clients want to talk about. Now, turn that around right now and ask yourself, if you are a client, what's the most exciting thing for you? Long, draggy conversations or conversation that hits right at the nail for you? Good. So both ends has come together. The coach find it very challenging to start the conversation immediately addressing the focus, and a client wanted the focus to be established as soon as possible to get the best impact. So there's a few things that in order to do that, I mean, so for this, that's why getting a coaching brief is very, very vital for any coaching engagement. And some of my clients really don't believe me when I say money back guarantee in 3 sessions. They don't believe it. I say, well, don't pay me for the first coaching engagement, but be prepared to pay me 5 figures if the first coaching session meets your client's expectations. Because I'm damn clear about what my skill set is. Just like clients are not sure that, are you sure you can hit it in 3 coaching sessions? The secret is you prepare a coaching brief in which you get the clients to talk about the topic and ask them very specifically, what exactly do you want to get out from this conversation? So the client will say, I want to gain clarity. Great. When you come right into the conversations, instead of talking about the context, what makes that important, what positive difference, tell me more about that, and blah, 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 you have a very laser sharp focus. This is your context. This is a situation. This is what you're dealing with. And for this outcome, you say that you don't have a clarity. What do you mean by that? Can you see? No, it's no monkey business, straight to the point. Okay, because from a client perspective, that's what it matters. Of course, depending on what kind of clienteles you're talking about. I'm working with CEO. They have no time, right? Straight to the point. Great. You prepare the coaching brief, come to the conversation. Great. So let's talk about this clarity, and you laser sharp focus. What is it that bothers the clients in regards to this clarity? Got it? So in this case, you don't have to kind of like go through the drill. Okay, so what's the topic right now? What makes that important? When you say that, what do you mean by that? What positive difference? And then finally, for today's coaching conversation, what is it that you like to focus on? Got it? Now, to get that, you had to start somewhere. And so by getting you with this system of the PCC marker, you are and exposing yourself to various practical labs, you then slowly can see, hey, actually, for some cases, irregardless of how much you expand, it still come back to the same point. I want to gain clarity. Agreed? Good. So if that is the case, that is what your experience has informed you. That's why you can just jump in and say, wow, good. You say you want to have clarity. Good. Talk to me. What is clarity? What exactly are you talking about? You know what I mean? It gets right into the business directly, which is harder for the coach, beneficial for the client. Got it? Great. So that's why you can observe here today, there was no explicit question around the marker. So that's the technical thing that you're asking. There is no specific expression of the marker. Now, if that is true, that is explicit direction, then we should ask ICF to take the MCC credential away from Evan. Yeah, if he has to go through the topic and say, okay, my dear clients, what is the outcome that you want? And what would you like to be able to achieve by the end of today's conversation? It's like he doesn't deserve that credential, right? So he's able to see from his experience, hey, this is where the issue is, and that's where I need to direct my client's attention to. That comes because he is faithful to the discipline of knowing what the markers are designed for, expose himself to many practical labs to see the similarity of the cases. Can do? Just like how you guys drive the car. Okay, you don't actually follow the routine. God, is that a great encouragement to all of you? Good. So we are almost running out to 10 o'clock of our time here. So may I just invite maybe Diana to offer some insight, and then we have Evan to have our closing speech for tonight. Would that be okay? Good. Great. So Diana, what would you like to say to our audience today based on the case study that we had?
What comes to mind immediately is, as I put in the chat, and something that you have taught us, Ben, and which Evan's practiced today, which is let it go and let it come. Trust the process and keep it simple. Don't try too hard. Just let it go and let it come and trust the process. And you'll get there.
Thank you, Diana. I just want to echo one more thing. To trust the process, trust the training. For you to trust this training, yes, attend more live coaching sessions. More practical lah. The more the better. If you're yeah, building muscle not easy lah. We all dream about the 6 apps lah, but don't want to sweat. Let's exercise in aircon room with pizza and chocolate and Coca-Cola, and if not, now get some burger along the way. Right? Don't worry, don't be disheartened. Learning is fun, it's enjoyable, it's part and parcel of what you love. That should be the way we look at. Wow, tomorrow 7 o'clock in the morning, another live coaching session. Yeah, let's go for it. Can do. Be passionate. You run after your fans, right? When your idol is there, wow! Queue up 1 o'clock in the morning for 6 hours just to buy the ticket. Do you do that crazy things when you're young? Right, we do, right? No, we don't. Yes, we do things that we're passionate about, right? So if this is going to be your calling, something that you really want to pursue it, then do yourself, a big favor. Be passionate about, wow, tomorrow 7 a.m. Singapore time. Yay! Good. So let us have the honor to invite Evan to give us a closing speech for the session today. So Evan.
Thanks, Ben. Thanks everyone again for coming. And a few words would be, again, just slow down, allow the client to take in your reflections of the experience, your bullets, and allow that to sink in for them, and allow them to get into that reflective mindset. Use the elements to help guide you in what you observe. And that's something that I've never let go of. I'm always thinking about the elements when I'm listening to the conversation, listening to the content, and that helps me guide my bulleting. So if there's a couple things there to walk away with, just that's how we can strengthen it. Keep listening for those elements. The more we can recognize it, the more sense of ease we can feel when we're listening to our clients. The more sense of ease that we feel, the more seamless it will come to you in that moment.
Great. With that, are we all happy to say goodbye to one another? And before we say goodbye, let's enjoy this video clip, and then we shall end the session.
Mr. Sabar, his wife, and also along with the 4 kids. So kids are working with the family, because due to the poverty they are not going to school. And this is their small kitchen, and the bushes, they burn the bushes and cooking the food. This is their washroom. You can look over here. The family is saying, Mr. Ben, thank you so much helping us and take caring us.
Great. So this is the social foundation that we're doing, and this program is approved by ICF. This live coaching session is approved by ICF that allows you to earn your CCE units, and the fees that you contribute to purchase the CCE certificate will go into our social foundation. For every pennies that you contribute that we collected, CMA Global Office double that together. Okay, so with that fees that we collected, it goes into supporting make positive change to this village that we are supporting. So, well, for those credential coaches who need CCE to renew your credential, by all means, register and then you get a certificate. For those who are not, you are still welcome to contribute. So with that, see you tomorrow, 7 a.m.